Yes.
Cool.
Right now. Yes. Hi, friends. My name's
What did?
host Derek, and this is not my live stream today. It's Jackie Kitty's live stream, but I hope to facilitate her live stream by asking some basic questions to frame some of the conversation that we're going to have here today. I watched a video or two on your channel, Jackie, and it one of the interesting videos I saw told the story of your mother allegedly killing your father, and that she's not been held accountable for it. I wonder if you could tell us your perceptions on that matter and why you're so convinced that she got away with murder.
She's not going to get away with it. She's not. She didn't just murder my dad. I have reason to believe that she murdered 2 other people over the span of 40 years, because she's 60 now. She's 60 this year. But primarily, my dad is the one that I'm, because I didn't know, I hardly knew the other 2 people that I think.
Okay, well, let's focus on your dad then. Let's just focus on that.
Yeah.
Give me a little bit of the background of their marriage and their relationship prior to your father's death.
Well, my dad, their relationship was always very, I would say, strife-filled. There was it was I would say definitely a loveless marriage. My dad.
So when you say strife-filled, are you talking about verbal abuse? Are you talking about physical abuse? Or are you talking about just being cold to each other?
Abuse.
Just being cold to each other?
My dad was the abused partner. Definitely, he was the abused spouse. I've mentioned before that a lot of this abuse, because my mother thinks of herself as an intelligent abuser, and an intelligent abuser covers her tracks very well. So everything was covert, or there was never any physical sort of altercation.
So we're talking about basically remarks that are intended to undermine a person's self-worth?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So they were together for a long time, right? Relatively, before he died.
Mm-hmm.
How long were they together for?
See, they never gave me a definite answer. That's the thing. A lot of this is murky, and they've deliberately kept from me a lot of this information, but I did manage to, piece things together. What is relevant here is that I have talked about it, I'm not sure on the videos, but basically, you know how my mother had always sort of portrayed my dad as this loser, deadbeat, older man. There's a 28-year age gap between the 2 of them. So, and my dad, I learned when I was 11 that he had a separate family prior to having us. I have 2 younger brothers. And I found out, kind of pieced it all together recently, that the storyline that my mother gave about my dad was completely bogus. Yeah.
Okay, so
you know how rich guys.
What was the storyline that your mother gave your dad?
No, gave to us. He portrayed my dad as this loser, deadbeat father that left his first family, had a failing business, and somehow lucked his way into finding my mother, this younger woman with a lot of money, who's independently wealthy or something. But the truth of the situation is that it wasn't that way at all. And I have proof about this, but this all happened over so quickly. Can I just get one thing out?
Of course, sure.
Because it's important that I get this one thing out about, yeah. You know how, like, rich men in the past, how bad guys have held the children of rich men, like for ransom? You know how that whole
Yeah, sure. Kidnapping for ransom. Sure.
it's a common. Yep, yeah. Um, that's literally what I think happened because me and my brother both fell ill. We both had suffered seizures. Okay, that were serious enough between the ages of 6 and 7, that required hospitalization.
And what was the
And
cause of the
I think
seizures?
that this was the etiology was never fully explained. But based on how well I know my mom, I think that she's behind that. I think that but of course, she kept that information from us kids. But between her and my dad, she was trying to scare my dad into submission because uh, she probably privately between the two of them, she was threatening to harm us. But it was done covertly. And this is why what I mean is that she had already killed her mother. She and her sister killed her mother.
Okay, well,
This is some intense shit.
Let's stick to one. Let's stick to one. Let's stick to one murder at a time. Okay. So I want to hear the case you have to make for what the totality of indicators are that make you think that your mother actually killed your father and got away with it.
Okay, well, for one thing, my mother would frequently make remarks. Okay, throughout my life, she was brazen about it. She would say, When is your father just gonna drop dead? Why won't he just die already?"
Okay, so
That's an odd thing to say.
motive.
When is he gonna die? Motive, yep.
Just
There was
a general desire for him to be dead. That's motive.
yeah,
Okay. All
yeah,
right. So what
yeah.
else we got?
There was one instance where there was a we have a little nook area where the laundry machines are located, and there was one time where I noticed that the lamp that is really heavy. Okay, what do you call it? A lampshade. It just spontaneously detached itself from its
Mooring.
location on the ceiling. Yeah, exactly. And nearly missed my dad's head. He is the only person that that did the laundry and all of that. He was very much he took care of all the domestic things.
Okay. Okay. Now, can you tell me the actual circumstances of his death?
It's a little hard for me to get all my thoughts, gather them all into one place. But essentially, what I think happened was that he died when I was about 19, and a couple months before he died suddenly. Okay, he was here one day, gone the next, that kind of thing. And a couple months before he died, our home was burglarized. Nothing of material value was taken. This is an important thing to note. But I remember that my dad was livid, and there was a town hall meeting between the neighborhood, in the neighborhood that was called, and my dad was really he wanted to go to that meeting. I went with him to that meeting.
Okay. Now,
It
where
was out
was
of
he when he
character.
actually passed?
Mm-hmm. Pardon me? Yeah.
Where was he when he actually passed?
He was out on, um, he was off, out doing some kind of an errand, on his own.
Okay,
This
so
is,
is he in
I
the
believe that,
car?
no, he was at a bookstore, like a Barnes and Noble type of bookstore at a local mall that he liked to go to. Um, what I believe happened is that the burglary was a setup, and that his prescriptions, something happened with his prescriptions. Uh, she may have used that opportunity to get a hold of his prescription medications,
Okay,
and
so what
had them
burglary?
tempered with
Can we go back to this burglary and fill me in on the
yeah,
burglary part?
around, my dad died on May 24th, 2005, and it was around January 2005 when our townhome was burglarized. It was broken into. Clearly, somebody broke into it, but they didn't take anything of material value. It was just, uh, the whole place was just rifled through and, a mess with. Um, I distinctly recall that within a month or two, my mother had moved us to another location. But prior to moving, my dad had gone to this meeting, and a town hall meeting, because the neighborhood association, the heads of each household were worried about their homes being burglarized, right, as a result of this break-in. So I went with my dad to this meeting. Um, I'm sorry if I'm not making a lot of. I'm
No,
not
well,
as.
I'm trying. I guess the thing is, when you mentioned the Barnes and Noble, and then in
Yeah,
conjunction mentioned the burglary, I was
yeah.
confused because I thought perhaps there had been a burglary at the Barnes and Noble.
No, no.
So, what exactly happened in the Barnes and Noble?
He was in a. Wait, it's not a Barnes and Noble. It's called Chapters.
Okay, well,
But it's a
the bookstore. What happened in the
the bookstore.
bookstore?
Yeah, I gotta get the facts right, right? Because he was in a he was found unconscious and basically deceased by a fellow patron. Okay, in one of the bathrooms at the bookstore, and the news of his death. We received that death, the news of his death, by way of my mother. Okay. And from what she told me was that the VPD, the police, came to her door and informed her of my father's death. I have reason to believe that she, there is something, I've stumbled on something quite big. And it's important that I get this information out as much as possible.
So, what's the official cause of death?
That's the thing. My mother was, there was his body was taken in by the coroner, taken to the coroner's office, and my mother was given the option of having an autopsy done on my dad. But my mother didn't declined, so we never got a fixed a certain like a definite answer. There was no, the official cause of death was that he was old and he had a heart attack, but that's bullshit. That's
Okay.
bullshit.
So,
Yeah, he was cremated too.
did he have heart problems prior to going into that bathroom?
Not that I know of. I don't think so. But he is an older man. He falls into that. That's a fitting story, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
then, yeah.
look, what you're conveying to me here is the following: that you've got
Hmm.
a woman who has expressed animosity towards
Hmm.
this individual, who's displayed narcissistic behaviors, and even maybe verbalized a desire to not have him around anymore. that it would make sense when he were to die suddenly and your mother to not pursue all the avenues she can to establish the cause of death and stuff, that would make you very suspicious. Do you have a theory of the crime?
Of how it went down?
Yeah.
I think that she had, this is where it comes in. I think this has something to do with some kind of a human trafficking ring, a child abuse ring that I've kind of come that she is working integrally with people with certain people in high positions of the law enforcement and the health profession and healthcare field. Okay, that has something to do with people, mostly young boys. Okay, that are being
and why do you think
literally
this?
trafficked. It's a little hard for me to get all my thoughts together because this is part of it. It's I think this way because I worked at the Department of Justice for a year and a half, about a year and a half, and because of how well I know my mother, she isn't she's never been a very loving parent, but she right around the time I lost my job, she offered to take me to this local health and wellness clinic. It's a private clinic, okay? Ostensibly to pay for some therapy for me, but it quickly became clear to me that that was not her true intention, okay? And it triggered like a avalanche of things that happened. Boreal Wellness Centers, the CEO, okay? This is the CEO, Sean Joss, okay? You read his bio, he says that he has connections in California and in Vancouver, okay? He has advised and collaborated with management teams of physician practices, pharmacies, behavioral health providers, and specialty medical equipment manufacturers. Where this comes in is that this has something to do with what I've been grappling with. Okay, I'm not getting it out
So you
as
think
well
that
as I would like.
there's some coordinated effort by some of these parties with your mother caused a medically believable, a murder that was a medically believable death?
Yes, but that's just the tip of the iceberg because I stumbled on something even bigger than that. Possibly explains for why why there's such a huge homelessness problem between the two cities, or the two between California and Vancouver. One more thing, my little brother, I have a younger brother, his name's Gilbert Yang. I haven't seen him for 10 years. And I believe that my mother has done something with, has fallen victim to some kind of a human trafficking scheme, and my mother is at the helm of this.
What's the official explanation for why you haven't seen him for 10 years?
My mother's always the intermediary. That's the thing. She's heavily involved. Uh, Mediates all of our interactions. Yeah. Can I just get what I have to say out, which is that I strongly believe that people are being injected with some kind of something that induces psychosis. Okay, psychotic breakdowns. People, mostly boys. It has something to do with putting them on buses, traveling on public transport, literally being trafficked between California and Vancouver. Okay, and they're being put out onto the streets, and it has something to do with the pharmacies, and the management teams of physician practices. not so much the physicians themselves that are being part of this corrupt, seedy kind of what's happening, if I'm making any sense. One thing is, I spent 3 nights at the psychiatric ward, and this was precipitated by I had a major realization back in 2019, or no, 2020, around May 2020, and I realized that my mother was an abuser and may have killed my dad, and that I hadn't seen my other brother, Bernard, even though we live within about 2 blocks of each other. I don't even know his address. So I went to the police about that. I went to my doctor, my GP, who I've seen for 6 years consistently. So he should be someone I trust. And he said that he asked me if I needed to go to the psych ward, which was an odd thing to say. I wasn't in any state of psychosis or anything like that. I was just extremely anxious, naturally, understandably, right? So he said, "Would you like the police to come and do a safety check on you?" And I said, "Okay." And the police came and took her. It was really weird because they didn't really listen to me. They took a look around my apartment, which wasn't very well kept because of my lack of resources. I've just been one person. Last 7 years, I've been surviving on my own, everything. Basically, she took me to the psychiatric ward, okay? And I spent 3 nights there. And I recall certain things that happened to me that when I was there, I was not in any state of psychosis or anything of that nature. However, I was given a prescription at the end at the end of my stay there. The psychiatrist gave me a prescription, 2 weeks supply of Risperidor, which is the antipsychotic. One more thing. When I got to the first thing that happened to me when because it was involuntary hospitalization. I distinctly recall that they injected something into me, under the guise of taking my blood. They thought that I wasn't fully conscious of what was happening, but I was fully conscious of what was happening. And I checked with my doctor once I was out of the psych ward. I asked them, is it standard procedure for them to take your blood upon it, being taken into the, like the standard procedure? They said, yes, it is standard procedure. But I distinctly recall that something was injected into me that what shouldn't have been injected into me. And what do I see now? This Sean Joss individual. Please, I implore people, look into this guy. He was collaborated. He has some kind of experience with specialty medical equipment manufacturers. It's not so much the physicians that are the ones that are doing something.
They probably injected you with a sedative.
There's corruption. Likely. That's very likely. But that could have corresponding. I think it was a sedative because I'm a very powerful sedative because I fell asleep.
Well, I do have some experience with this. Having taken Rachel to be hospitalized and watching them inject her with a sedative and visiting her in the mental ward where she was for a couple of days, few days maybe, I don't know. So I understand that just because you're in a mental ward doesn't mean the other people in the place know better than you. So I've experienced plenty of so-called mental health professionals swing and miss the softballs that Rachel was telling them time and again, no, hit it like this. Be smart. But they weren't being smart, and they were making her problem worse. So there's no reason to presume that your mental health professionals are more correct about things than you are. From my experience, there's reason to presume that your correctness is probably underestimated because you've got this label. Having said that,
yeah,
what you have going on right now is too big of a pie. So it's like you're trying to make too many different cases at once. If you want to try to make the case that your mother killed your father, relevant details would be previous suspicious deaths that she was involved with, or in, and would involve basic motive. Would you need to establish either means or opportunity? Like she doesn't have to have the opportunity herself if it's a contract thing, or if she could set up some kind of trap or something. So you have to establish a prima facie case that she's got motive, means, and opportunity. If she's got an alibi and there's no evidence of foul play left because all the evidence has been destroyed, you're going to have a really hard time establishing your case, even if you're completely correct. And further speculative stuff about what else might be involved is only going to detract from the legitimacy of your it sounds like not completely unwarranted suspicions, not add to them.
I have something that could address those concerns. What I mean is that I strongly believe if somebody knowledgeable, trustworthy, could look into what is being put into my Adderall, because my latest batch of Adderall had a very, very strange effect on my physiology, and it was dispensed by a different doctor. That's why I say that the pharmacies are involved. It's at the level of the pharmacies and management teams of physician practices. This Sean Joss individual, has connections in California and here. I need to get this batch of medications I have to the right people. If they only looked into it and see whether it was contaminated, tampering, this.
Okay, my first question is this. Different manufacturers. I sometimes get different manufacturers. So I used to get, I think they used to be pink, and now they're orange. Different manufacturer. They're generic.
Mine's orange too. Yeah.
Yours orange. Okay. So I have the instant release, not the extended release. Do you get instant release or extended?
Extended. One more thing though, I had an odd combination that I've been taking consistently for the last couple. Dexedrine. Have you heard of Dexedrine?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same mixed amphetamine salt, but I used it in combination with my Adderall XR for almost 10 years now, consistently. But my mother's stick has my doctors have been attempting to trying to force me to stop taking that Dexedrine. He wanted me to just take the Adderall. And I finally, after 6 years of fighting with them, I finally relented.
And how long ago was that?
This was as of January 2021.
Okay, so not that long ago. That was
when I had to switch. Yeah.
And have you felt not as stable since the medication change? You felt less stable about it? About yourself?
not profoundly so, not in a very marked, pronounced way, but the really, really, really freaky effects really started in the last couple of weeks after I got my last my new batch of medications from a different doctor. I called up my regular GP, the physician's practice. I called them, the clinic, asking to have an appointment with him. But the management team, the staff there, served me up with a different doctor, and I wasn't able to reach my GP for 2 months, and so I had to go to different clinics and call up different clinics, walk-in clinics, and I have those conversations all published on my YouTube channel. What's weird is that there's a lot of collusion. There's a lot of something's happening. The Respirador.
Well, Jackie, listen.
Yep.
I have consistent problems getting my Adderall, so it's something I bitch about a lot. It's mostly due to a bunch of government rules. But, for example, last month, my doctor didn't fill my prescription. The other doctor at the place, or a different doctor, filled it because my doctor wasn't in the office. And the other doctor sent it to, they sent it originally to the right pharmacy, but then that pharmacy didn't have it. And then they told me to tell the doctor to send it to the other pharmacy instead. And the doctor sent it back to the first pharmacy again. And I had to go tell the doctor to go send it to the second pharmacy. These kind of things are normal processes because the drug is such an abnormal process for the doctors, especially for my doctor, because he's just a general practitioner and no sort of specialist in the thing.
Mine too.
But the biggest problem is with the pharmacies. Now, let me tell you about my problem with Adderall Pharmacy today, which is, once again, I get a text. This time I call it in early because I'm sick and tired of them having to order it every time I get it and having to wait extra time. So I order it early. I get a text from the pharmacy saying, you're too early to pick it up. You won't be able to pick it up till the 29th. And I then assume on the 29th I'm going to show up and they're going to have my Adderall. Well, on the 29th they say, oh, actually you can't pick it up till the 30th, but regardless we have to order it. Okay, well, why didn't you order it when you alerted me that I couldn't pick it up right now? What you should have alerted me is you can't pick it up at all because we don't have it. But if we did have it, then you couldn't pick it up until Thursday or Friday or whatever, right? But they don't alert me of that at all. And when I ask them about it, they say, well, it's an automated text. Okay, well, if your system can automatically text me that I can't pick it up yet, surely it can automatically text you that you don't have any. And you should order it. Or how about I tell you now? I'll be here next month, same time. Order it now. Set it aside for me. Write Eric on a piece of paper and tape it to my Adderall. And then it'll be there when I arrive next month. So, it's like, why does this happen? It's no sort of conspiracy. It's a series of terrible, bad regulatory actions done at the state and federal level to make things more difficult on people who get this kind of drug because it's been determined to be of high risk for abuse and resale.
Yeah. I don't know. I can relate to that experience. I definitely... I wish I had something more like... something that would be like...
You wish you had something more concrete. What you've got is a lot of intuition and a lot of good sort of circumstantial stuff that's not necessarily good objective circumstantial stuff because it's a lot from your own experience. But, it sounds like you've got a lot of good reason to be suspicious of the person. She didn't sound like... doesn't sound like she was sad at all or making any effort to ease anybody else's nerves about what happened or provide any answers for anybody else in the family. The way you described the individual, obviously I've not heard their side, but They certainly sound narcissistic, and it's not completely implausible, but it sounds like it's probably completely unprovable. Now, the thing I would ask you, though, is you mentioned her being associated with a couple of other deaths. Do you know for sure that those people are dead, or they're just missing, or what?
The other people, one of them being her mother, my grandmother. I know that for sure that she is presumed dead. How I know this is that my mother kept a newspaper clipping that based on that was written about her mother's disappearance. She's presumed dead. She was. I don't know. Again, it's.
How was she
It's written
disappeared?
in Chinese.
Where did she disappear from? Under what circumstances?
My mother said that her mother got caught up in some trouble with some bad people, money laundering schemes or something. What I think has happened is that this is a kill for hire kind of situation. And how did she manage this? Because of the money that she had. She probably got that money from. She was already wealthy by the time at 25. Come on. Sorry,
Maybe she pooped
it's
golden
a lot
turds.
for me to. Her whole side of the family is. She comes from poverty. It's not. It's. I just wish that somebody could just look into it. They'll see that I'm not. That can
The thing is this, Jackie.
Corroborate with what I'm saying.
I don't doubt that somebody looking into this would see the same patterns that you're seeing, and they might be very even convincing. But the problem that you're going to have, and linking to a crime, is that it sounds to me as though she's destroyed all the meaningful evidence.
I'm still here. I'm the meaningful evidence. My testimonial matters, doesn't it?
It is a form of meaningful evidence, but without without empirics backing it up, such as an autopsy, you can't exhume her because she's been cremated. You can't determine cause of death. You can't even establish the prima facie burden that there was a homicide, which means it doesn't even go to trial. Unfortunately, to be the bearer of bad news.
That's okay. I've thought this stuff through myself too, because I'm not actually crazy or anything. I have what I think are strong, convincing reasons that I can substantiate, but I can't do it all on my own. If it just needs to get into the right hands. It needs to get out there. My grandmother was not cremated. My father was cremated.
Okay, and
we were given the choice. Yeah.
So your mother's story is that your grandmother was in fact killed by somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay, and not a lot of identification of who this other person was.
No, just that she fell into trouble with some bad people.
Now note, my grandfather was killed by Juan Prentice Snow, who went into his store and shot him 5 times, 6 times, 7 times actually. And that's how he died. So the thing is, the reason Juan Prentice Snow killed my grandfather is because my grandfather was going to testify against him in court about an earlier burglary in which Juan Prentice Snow had burglarized the pharmacy. The moral of this story is that's how normal people, families, tell about murders of loved ones. Do you hear all the specifics in my story? Do you hear how
Well,
it's...
it was all done in the open.
Right. I mean, the point is, in a normal world, all the details of your grandmother's tragic murder that could be known would be shared, even if there were some shady things. They might be whitewashed, but the family would talk about those details and know those stories normally. The matriarch would want to share those stories as part of the family history. It does seem very
Yes,
odd
thank you. Yeah.
that she doesn't want to share those details, or that you don't know those details in the same way that I know the details of when my grandfather was murdered. So
Right.
that's
More. Yeah, she
again,
kept us. Yeah.
it's a strong intuitive cue. It might comprise part of a circumstantial case. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
though if you're trying to make a criminal case for murder, if no matter how strong a circumstantial case you make, that you're going to be able to get past the lack of physical evidence. Unless
What
you
about a
unless
guilty
you can get
admission of guilt from her?
an admission of guilt from her would be fine. Or if you could find an accomplice who genuinely assisted her in this and put pressure on the accomplice in some fashion and get him to turn on her, that would probably be the most textbook way to go about
Her
maneuvering this.
sister. Her sister.
I mean, so there's a starting point. Now, internet sleuths. For those of you who are interested in this case, Jackie Kitty lives in Vancouver.
My full name is Jackie Yang, Jacqueline Yang. Yeah, from Vancouver.
Yang means kitty in Chinese. No?
I like that.
Anyway.
Because unless somebody wants to, kill me, like Elisa Lamb, they're not going to be able to do that because I'm letting the world know exactly where I'm at any given time. I timestamp everything. If they want to do a move on me, I'm not kidding you. After,
All right,
I'm no
well,
dummy.
listen, Jackie
I know
Kitty,
exactly what to say.
I want to tell you right
Yep.
now, there's no way in hell anybody around here is going to let you get Elisa Lambs, okay? And I got one key piece of advice for you. One key piece of advice.
Thank you, Eric.
Stay out of elevators.
You are so right. I'm not even joking. They are disorienting, okay? I'm not kidding you. Somehow to do with if you ever have a psychotic breakdown, you can become disoriented, you start sweating, you get really lost and confused. Stay out of elevators, stay out of public transportation. I'm not kidding you, because somehow people are being trafficked on buses, being put on buses, and then left. This is very...
And your hypothesis here is that they're being transported to be homeless so they can have drugs tested on them, basically?
No, they're drugged beforehand.
For what purpose?
Child abuse. Money. There's money being exchanged here. People are being purposely put out on the streets. Stripped of any, unable to get work.
You mean made to be prostitutes and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's something to do with psychosis. I've seen this happen riding buses in Vancouver. I've seen kids, mostly boys, that with a California driver's license, clutching it, and see in some serious duress, and seeing them in that kind of duress, it was exactly experience I had the last couple days. After I had this new batch of Adderall, except that it wasn't as intense. I know this is so far-fetched.
No, Jackie, I'm just thinking, what a great beginning of a movie this would be. And then,
it is,
but
man.
You know what's going to happen right now for it to really be a great beginning of a movie? You're going to have to turn around and say, what?
Yeah.
Who's there? Who's there? And we're not going to be able to see who it is in the camera shot. And then you'll be like, oh, fuck! And then your laptop or whatever gets knocked over, and then the connection cuts. And that's the beginning of the movie. Then the roll the credits, right? And then we solve the mystery. This is really shaping up to be a feature film, I think. We got magical thinking aspects to it.
I want to.
But you see, the thing is, here's the thing. I am receptive to the argument. I know I sound crazy because I've heard people who, specifically INFJ, my INFJ friend Corey, say that to me on multiple occasions in the past, and turn out to be right. So, I know I sound crazy is a good indication to me that you're struggling with making bold NI claims that aren't really substantiated in full with TI. You want to substantiate them adequately for us with TI, so they're good and logically sound. You don't have enough support for them, but you believe wholeheartedly in the singularity of the truth you're positioning.
I believe that I have the wherewithal. I can if I can just. I already have the TI kind of worked out. Except that I'm because of my isolation. This is what I'm trying to do right now. I need to not be isolated because that puts me in a very vulnerable position. This is why I really appreciate what you're doing for me today, and I'm going to continue to keep in touch with you and your community so that we got to keep each other safe.
Sure,
I'm not kidding.
Absolutely. Come on to the live stream. Yeah. And also, we'll do an update video maybe in a week or so, and we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see how you feel about it then. We'll see if there's been any developments. We'll, try to take objective note as you move through the city of these things that you're noting and whether they really represent patterns or whether they're self-fulfilling patterns. Sometimes they're real patterns, sometimes they're not, and that's true for NIDOMs. So.
Yep. I have an Instagram. Find me on Instagram at Hey Jack Kitty, HeyJackitty. That's my handle, and also on Twitter at Hello Jack Kitty. It's kind of silly, but Hello Jack Kitty. It's on my description. I'm gonna put it on my bio.
Is that 1K or 2
on my YouTube page? Or 1Y or
no, Jack Kitty. Is it 1K or 2? Is it Jack Kitty? Or is it Jack Kitty?
1K. Yeah, 1K. Just as much as possible, I just want to get my word out, please. It just needs to go into the right hands.
All right. Well, we certainly feel your urgency.
They'll be able to fix it.
And it sounds like you've got your hands full with selling this because you've got deficits coming in. People are going to dismiss you for a couple of reasons. One being that you acknowledge your own history of mental health issues, which is a really unfair reason why people dismiss what other people are saying. And two, that you're extending the bounds of your claims in order to explain things that you don't have answers for. You're extending the bounds of your claims to things that sound a little bit more outlandish. Now, whether they are or not is an open question. I'm not saying they are outlandish. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that when it comes to selling what you have to sell, you're better off selling the murder as involving 2 suspicious deaths. Link the grandmother's death to it. Suggests it shows a pattern, and that her destruction of evidence is highly suggestive of awareness of guilt, especially since it was against the express will of the family. So those are strong circumstantial arguments. But unless you can find something concrete with grandma, you're shit out of luck probably. There is possible physical proof with grandma. We could exhume that maybe, So you're not at a spot where you have no further possible ways forward, but you have to start thinking, what do I do in the absence of an adequate amount of physical evidence directly tying my mother to my father's death. That's my Eric as lawyer giving you legal advice.
No, I appreciate your input. I value your input, really, and I take it seriously. But I just let's just please, I don't want to be left. I need to be connected to people because I've spent so much time on my own. This puts me in a very vulnerable position. So please, anyone watching, just keep an eye on my social media accounts because I'm going to keep putting information out there.
Okay, and
I trust that.
I'll be getting more amphetamines, I think, tomorrow. So I'll be doing more streams and more videos and premieres and stuff. And please do join those and chat with everybody if you feel like it, if you're feeling lonely or whatever. Or you just want to check
There's an interview on YouTube with the Boreal Wellness, the CEO, just Sean Joss. Just look him up. His name is Sean, SeanGjos. That is his name. This man is very integral in this whole unfolding.
Okay, well, internet
just
I'm
find
intrigued.
His video.
I'm intrigued, so maybe you are as well.
Thank you so much.
That's gonna wrap up the stream.
Yeah, I hope so.
And thank you, Jackie, for joining us. It was a pleasure interviewing you. One of the more interesting interviews I've done in a long time, and I wish you well.
Are you convinced of my INFJ-ness or no?
I wasn't trying to type you, but I would say I'm convinced you're NI instead of SI for sure.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna wrap up this stream. Thanks for everyone for being here, and thank you, Jackie, for an exciting and unexpected
Hopefully, I'll
video.
talk to you soon.
Yeah, sure. And if you don't talk to me like this right away, well, talk to me in the. When I'm streaming some point, let me know you want to talk to me like this, and we'll do it, okay? All right.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Thank you so much.